Oh, you as even cultural expert now? It's like, I don't know, just makes me mellow.
Who said that?
Yeah. My son, yeah. Oh, ready?
Okay.
It's just like for 2 days. That's all I know.
So welcome everyone to our last board meeting of this school year. As we think about our traditional territories of the Inca, Clap and Zoe people and the Métis, it was good to have 79 grads or Indigenous grad. As I can remember when that was 12 students. I also wanted to remind us of 3 other students. I think Cassie has them there. Because we also had a surprise from the review board. That's Caitlin, Corden, and Max. If you remember, 18 years ago, we went through 3 murders of 3 children at Diamond Vale, plus 10 days where the RCMP were doing a pretty intensive search for a gentleman who, there's a lot of been talk about gentlemen, but I really wanted to focus on kids because those were 3 lives that were taken for us. And it also connects back to domestic violence, because if we think in Princeton, I think 2024 with Vermilion Forks, we're dealing with domestic violence issue there. We know in Merritt with the Jarvis family, again, domestic violence. I'm not sure if we've learned anything over 18 years. I know the report that came out for these 3 children, I'm quoting from Turpel Lafond, was that they came in contact with 14 different professionals during the week of the killings. And the gentleman was arrested 3 times. Once was at Diamond Vale, once was Children and Families, and once was in my office. So I was dealing like 6 inches away from the gentleman. So, and the report said nothing was done to stem the repeated domestic violence incidents. So here we are, 18 years later. We know Darcy, his wife, also died about 11 years later, and that was because each year he was able to still prey on her through the system. And the system, in releasing him, said he's is still a danger to himself and to other people. So he's been released. He's now Ken John Johnson, but it does also tear at me a bit that it's an unconditional release as if it never occurred. And we know our community is still feeling that 18 years later. And I heard from quite a few people. So just a reminder of those 3 kids, and we still have the memorial tables at Diamond Vale School. So just wanted to touch on that before we started our agenda, because I thought it was important to remember those kids and not the other gentlemen. Thanks for that, Darcy. Any changes to the agenda? Seeing none, if I could get a mover for the regular meeting held April 8th. Moved by Trustee Ward, seconded by Trustee Rayner. Any errors or omissions, Trustee Rayner?
No, it's good. Really well done.
Regular meeting held May 13th, Trustee Hoisington, seconded by Trustee Jepson. Any errors or omissions? Any business arising from the minutes? You've got 2 reports from the closed meeting held April 8th and the closed meeting held May 13th. We also have at the back table, we had talked about doing it a few meetings ago, our trustee code of conduct that we were going to get everyone else to sign off on. So if you could do that at some time during today or the end of the, and that's just a reminder to everyone as we head into elections and a new board being, we're going to do actually at the start of November, which will help remind everyone of what we signed on for in that. And I know we've been looking at it a couple of times. We've come up with a new trustee conduct and we just haven't had a chance to sign it. We think people physically signing it is a good message. Board authorized course presentation. So I think that's Al, Dan. I'm not sure if someone has an intro for you. Wherever you stand, this thing is going to follow you. Like, so wherever you are, it is good. Yeah,
Doesn't matter where we stand.
Wherever you're comfortable.
Thank you, everybody, for giving us some time tonight to do this and speak to you about the 3 courses we'd like to propose. Just a really quick background or more of a rationale. We at Skides quite often will see a gap when learners transition from face-to-face schools to online learning. They can look up, learners and their families can go online, they can look up the curriculum, and the curriculum will show you what you are to know, what you should know, but it doesn't explicitly teach to how to learn from that content, how to access it, how to process it. These courses we're proposing would provide the skills and strategies necessary so learners can effectively engage with that academic material. Further than that, us providing those skills and strategies will help the learners not just be successful with individual courses at Skides, but really for their entire academic journey the rest of their lives. So that's where this was born. And Valerie's going to tell you it was a team and it was the Skides group and the family. No, credit all goes to Valerie. Absolute fantastic student support teacher that I'm very lucky to have on my staff. So with that, I'll pass it over to Valerie Grimshire.
Okay, so what I am proposing to you guys is 3 board authorized courses, and I'll talk specifically about what they are, but the idea is to support diverse learners whose needs extend beyond what is addressed in a traditional academic course. So like Dan said, it's kind of the how you learn piece. I don't know. Okay, so kind of one of the big focuses is on the core competencies. We have the core competencies, we want students working towards them. We don't explicitly teach them and build them into our courses. Some students struggle with how to access these things. So the core competencies they are at the center of learning. They're essential for students to engage in deep and lifelong learning. They must be intentionally developed and supported, not assumed to emerge naturally from academic coursework. And so what we're finding is that a lot of times when students are coming from face-to-face schools where maybe they've had a gap in their learning or they weren't able to get into the classrooms, they haven't been able to grasp those core competencies and they've missed those pieces because they're not being directly taught. For students in our inclusive education programs or those who need additional support and adaptations, we may be able to reduce the need for targeted adaptations by directly teaching the skills first. And then the first people principles of learning were really important when we were looking at these. So the idea that learning is holistic. So it's experiential, it's relational, it's a whole big part of it. It's not just about, like Dan said, that content, it's about how we get there. We wanted to highlight the need in schools to support students in understanding themselves, manage their own learning, and develop resilience. So that's actually like a key focus of these 3 courses. And then there's often elements that aren't explicitly taught in content areas, but here we're going to teach them to the students who haven't been able to pick them up by the modeling and the things that are going on in the classroom. So there's 3 courses: Learning Methods 10, Learning Practices 11, and Personal Wellness and Resiliency 12. And they were developed to meet the provincial expectations and fit the critical gaps that we're seeing that are disproportionately affecting online learners specifically. And they'll kind of help with mental health challenges, personal circumstances, and learning differences that students are facing. Without explicit instruction in these areas, we might find that our kids disengage, fall behind, or become overwhelmed. And so what we see in online learning is that our students simply aren't learning. We're not seeing progress. We don't see the percentage go up. Many students in virtual settings struggle not necessarily with the course content. Lots of them are capable academically, but they struggle with the executive functioning, the being able to reach out, ask for help, perform these tasks, and their personal well-being. And so these courses will also allow a soft and accessible start to a change in programming that can actually seem quite harsh for a student. If they've been struggling to go to face-to-face learning and all of a sudden they're going to learn online and you're like, here's a computer, here are your courses, that can be huge and a struggle, and these are going to help introduce you to that. So these courses provide direct support in organization, study habits, executive functions, literacy, numeracy, opportunities for self-reflection, awareness, and personal goal setting. They're designed in a lot of ways to kind of mimic how and what you'll see in your online courses in Sky. So they use all of the quizzes and the formats that they use. So students kind of start to familiarize themselves with, how do I do this? How do I access this? They support well-being and resilience. They're consistent with the first principles of learning, and they allow equitable access to the foundational skills that many students develop incidentally in classrooms, right? Lots of kids learn from modeling. They pick up on what's going on. They learn these skills. But in online environments, we have to intentionally teach those because our kids aren't necessarily interacting with other people as often as what we would like. So the main goals of the courses, okay, and this is the last slide, and then I'll talk to the courses, and you guys, I think there's interspersed things. So the goals of the courses are to strengthen our commitment to inclusive student-centered learning and to ensure that learners not only complete courses, but also gain self-regulation, communication, critical thinking, and wellness support for their long-term academic success, personal fulfillment, and readiness for their post-secondary journeys, which is why these courses go all the way to grade 12. So the learning practices 10 is the first one, and that is meant, learning methods 10 is the first one, and that's meant to teach you how to learn. Learning practices 11 then takes that stuff and it goes into how to apply that in your learning. And then the personal wellness and resiliency 12 is built to kind of take all those skills and teach you how you're going to use those in life. And so that's why there's the kind of 3 levels there. Any questions about the specific process?
I just say, and I just want to pipe in, because Val got to share these with me before, and we had some back and forth with it. I love this. I think this, and I just wish my kid would have taken personal resiliency 12. Like, I think it's really applicable to lots of our kids these days. So I just can't speak highly enough about the work that I'll get these going. Really proud.
I'm excited. This is fantastic, right? Because it's a changing world every minute, every day, whether you're at work, and just to have these basic foundational skills apply to everything.
Yeah, and I designed them with online learning because that is my current kind of role and where I'm at. But I did design them in ways that they could be used in face-to-face settings with some kind of adaptations and tweaks. And I'm happy to share them across the district with other people. And I have had the opportunity to go in and work with the resources, because developing the package was hard, because it's like, what are the resources going to be? And it's like, well, I don't know. I haven't fully planned the course yet. So I did walk through, and I have planned the grade 10, the learning methods 10 course in Brightspace. And it's a combination of like workbook activities and then quizzes based on that, journal reflections. Yeah, I like it.
John, here's your hand.
Yeah, thank you very much. I was just gonna ask that, like, how hard is it to put it out in a, like you said, Brightspace? And you have to do that for all 3 now?
Yes.
That's gonna be pretty amazing.
Yeah, so like I said, the learning methods 10 is kind of ready to roll, and I wanted to go into September with 1 ready to offer because it's a good starting place. And I don't know that I need the 11 ready because no one's done the 10. No one's really ready for the 11. So I thought I could buy some time. But I think I'll work on them here and there for the summer a little bit. I'm
Maybe-
excited.
Maybe you could help us understand, like, when we have a board authorized course, how many credits does it count toward your dogwood?
So these ones I've asked for 4 for each of the courses, and I built them around, they're about 100 hours of work. And I think that's typically how you kind of decide. You can do 2 credit courses, which would be a shorter thing. But I really thought, when I looked at other board authorized courses that are offered and what the students are learning and the skills that they're gaining, and I thought that they fulfilled a full 4 credit course each.
Nice. I got one more.
One more and then I'll go.
Is there an adult equivalent for people going after the adult dogwood? Could they do this too?
Unfortunately, they could do it to build their skills, but board authorized courses don't fulfill credits for adult dogwoods, and that's a ministry
Thanks for all
decision.
That's wonderful.
So that could potentially be something that we might want to lobby as trustees with the ministry to maybe create a little room there to make that happen. So think about that as trustees, because we can do that through our association. I'm taking it there's no other distance ed schools who develop something like this.
I believe that some do, like if you look in the course code lookup, you can see areas where students are doing it. When I was at MSS, we did have a student transfer back to us from online learning and they had a couple of credits in like the area of communication and in a couple of other areas. It's really hard to get other online schools to tell you what exactly they're doing to fulfill those credits. To develop these, I did look at what other people have, and there are some people out there who do share their board authorized courses. So there's definitely learning strategies style courses out there offered by different boards. I feel like I kind of went in a different direction with these ones. I think sometimes they can be used to kind of like fill a void for a specific student, and often they're 2 credits. And then these ones I kind of developed as like full courses.
Life skills.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm just envisioning as you roll them out, there's gonna be some other DE schools who may want kids to register with us in order to take these. Or may want us to collaborate with them and share the material, but I'm kind of thinking on the business end, Dan.
Yeah.
There's a marketing piece here, because I think it's great what you put together, and kudos to you and the others, people who helped you with this, because it's an area that's missing. And back in the Crow pen days, I was actually one of your markers. One of the things, it wasn't that easy for kids to transfer into it, and because it's the kids we had in athletics who were used to, I'm here and then I'm gone for 2 months, they were really disciplined and had coaches that were doing life skills with them. But for other kids, this was a piece that was always a struggle. So great work there. So really impressed. So if there's no more questions, I'm hoping there's a motion to approve the board authorized courses. Moved by trustee Chenoweth, seconded by trustee Kent Laidlaw. Anyone opposed? Well, congratulations.
Great work. Thank you.
While we have Val here, thank you for putting these together. It is an incredible amount of work to put one of these courses together, let alone 3. But I also wanted to speak to the role that Val plays at both our CLC and our Skies school. So she's a student support teacher, and honestly, she's helped Skies become probably the premier provincial online school for students with needs. So parents seek us out, and it's a big credit to the work that she does in organizing services, working with families, making people feel included, especially in a distance learning environment. So I have you here and probably have embarrassed you now. I just wanted to say thank you for what you do. And we notice and we appreciate it.
Great job. Thank you all for letting it happen.
Yeah, you're welcome to stay, but you know it's sunny outside. If you have other things you need to do tonight, feel free,
Can't wait to hear how it goes. Like
Yeah.
maybe.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
See how that's going. Yeah. Good job. Thanks so much, Valerie.
We already know it was wonderful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, everybody.
And as you know, I think it was the last Friday, the Friday before the last the strategic plan framework. Trying to think of, Jane, when we concluded the last meeting. Week before.
Yeah.
So Harold and Jane, I think I see Harold on the line at the corner up there. Over to you guys on the strategic plan framework that you've been leading us through. And
Great.
thank you
Thanks,
also,
Gordon.
trustee
I got
Washington, for being on the committee.
Great, thanks, Gordon. I did get the short stick, and I'm going to start off and kind of walk us through, and then Jane, like usual, will come and clean up the mess. So we've been a good team for the last little while doing this, but we do appreciate the opportunity to come and present again. Another couple great meetings. I know we last reported and had a touch-in point with the board on May 13th. As the school year closes, it gets faster and faster. So it does seem like yesterday when we were talking about the vision, mission, and values. and some of the priority areas. So we wanted another opportunity to come and chat with the board and provide an update on where things are going and get a little bit of direction in terms of a couple questions that we have at the end. But just kind of recapping where we've gone to, provided some materials in the board package. We've got a briefing note with the highlights. We've also included the list of goals, objectives, and strategies that Jane had worked the group through. Again, it's kind of a similar process that we've done in the first two meetings, kind of a brainstorming discussion process. And then as we started to theme things up, getting the feedback and input from the group around priorities was huge. And Jane did a wonderful job, as usual, of walking the group through that. And we've summarized that work on that attachment that gets the objective and the SMART strategies. And you can see some numbers of votes. So again, as we went through that prioritization process, we thought it was important to be able to show the board, kind of the thoughts of the committee, where people were landing in terms of the strategies they felt were the most relevant to each objective. So that's some information we provided. And the last couple documents we'll provide and kind of walk through at a very high level or at least discuss around the conceptual frameworks. So trustees, you may remember the conversation we had around the 13th was around making sure that, as we work through the committee process, we wanted to keep things at a high level so it really fueled and enhanced the conversation and the feedback without starting to getting into a wordsmithing exercise. Because we felt once we did get to the specific words, which are going to be very important in the final plan, it really stifles that creativity and that input. So we wanted to make sure that as we work through the committee work, that the framework conversation was the appropriate level, and we wanted to then summarize that for you tonight to be able to see the work to date. So looking at some of the specifics, the kind of the priority areas, you may recall we had well-being, learning, and then belonging. So as Jane was working through the group and looking at the strategies and theming it up, the belonging and well-being was very similar. A lot of the same strategies, a lot of the same objectives. So the conversation we had at the working committee was then kind of flipping to that fourth priority area around communication. So we thought that kind of rounded off. So that's a little bit of a shift since the last time we met on May 13th. The other pieces that you'll see now, as we started to really develop ideas and thoughts from the committee, we started to flesh out those goal areas into objectives and then strategies. So on the conceptual framework document, you'll see the objectives. We've got 3 to 4 objectives for each of the goal or priority areas. Again, that's the areas that we are hearing from the working committee to focus on in order to be able to achieve those goals over the 4-year period. And then based on that, we started to develop the strategies and that getting that feedback from the working committee, getting their thoughts on how to achieve those goals, how to achieve those objectives, being time sensitive, understanding that they need to be measured and so forth. So that's the list of strategies that Jane worked the group through, developing and then prioritizing and going through the different levels of strategies to be able to meet the objectives. So the conversation we wanted to spend a little bit of time with the board on tonight is around the strategy piece. And as you can see in the memo that we put together, we talked about 2 kind of options, a static look or a dynamic look. So as you look through some of the 2 different conceptual frameworks, the options that we're having is that if we continue to have the static strategy level, we prioritized or asked the working committee to prioritize each of those strategies under each objective. So one option would be to include those in the strategic plan. It would be the main priority for each of those objectives that roll up to the goal. So there is some bonus, or there are some benefits to that. It certainly does provide certainty to the system. It is very clear in the strategic plan that this is how we're going to be able to do the work and get to the direction that the board has set. Some of the challenges that come with that is around, will it continue to be relevant and be as impactful as it is for the entire 4-year period? So that's part of the challenges there. So the conversation then shifted to more of a dynamic look at it. And that's that second framework where you've got just the objective level, and on an annual basis, you develop those strategies and you work through the strategies to be able to meet the objective. So on page 2 of the briefing note or the summary, we take a look at, and this is, to be honest with you, this is a little bit deeper than we thought we would get to, but given the leadership that Courtney was kind of taking us down, we wanted to kind of flush this idea out and present it to the board. But it's really taking a look at those strategies on an annual basis, making sure it's meeting the needs of the organization. And as you can see on the annual strategy life cycle kind of graphic there, it's a simple process where they're developed. Mark and Laura will do their budget work around those strategies, implemented, and then we report out on it. So it's kind of the full circle. It's the accountability framework that we started talking about at the beginning of this process, making sure that the strat plan not only reflected the direction of the board, but also as an accountability document that we could report out on, measure the success and so forth. And then on the right-hand graphic, you can see kind of the planning framework from a year's perspective and kind of the time period that a lot of that work would be done in. So as you can see, we're recommending or suggesting the development of the strategies are done in October, November. That allows Mark and Laura to do their budget work in February and March based on that. The previous year strategies are reported on at the beginning of the school year in September. So as you get your FESL reports, they are obviously be reporting out on those strategies. You'll see the financial statements at the same time. So it's a nice reporting package of what we did and how much it cost to be able to do that. And then you restart the cycle again in the fall, in October, November, developing the strategies again for the future year. So some benefits there. It keeps the strategic plan at the forefront. It keeps it dynamic. It keeps the conversation fresh. You're looking at strategies, you're implementing strategies, you're working and reporting out on strategies. So it's not a document that I would assume just gets put on the shelf and then refreshed every 4 years. Is a very dynamic document that we'll continue to work through and make sure it's leading the work of the district as we go through the next 4 years. The final piece I just want to talk about very quickly around performance measures and targets. Still some work to be able to be done on that. Again, we want to make sure that the strategies are reflective of the goals that we're trying to achieve, and being able to measure that performance with measures and targets is going to be key. Making sure that the work is meaningful and is achieving what we want it to do, and will help with the strategy development. So lots of good work so far. In terms of next steps, again, wanted to have a conversation tonight with the board to provide a quick update on where we're at. See if there is some discussions or some direction that the board may want to provide on a couple different areas. That's around the dynamic or the static strategy development and inclusion in the plan itself. And just a conversation around making sure we understand the priority areas. So from a priority perspective, the working committee had it ranked as well-being, learning, and then communications. So part of the question tonight we wanted to pose to the board was, does that area or does that list resonate with the board in terms of that order? Do we want to lead off with learning as in the education sector? So those are kind of some conversations. But what our intent is to do is provide this information to trustees tonight, answer any questions that you may have, and then based on that direction, we'll roll up the framework to a plan and bring it to the committee of the whole meeting in August. I believe it's August 31st to be presented to the board, to rights holders and partner groups and the public to get an initial look at it, get any feedback with the intent of making those revisions based on the direction of the board for consideration at the September board meeting. So in terms of next steps, those are kind of the big pieces we're looking at. So maybe at that point, I'll just turn it back over to Gordon to lead us through any questions and see if either Jane or Courtney have anything to add or to correct on that.
I'll start us off and then go next to Dave and switch other hands. I like having where you've got the specific strategies for that particular year. So when you're showing that, I think that helps us focus. The other piece I'd suggest on that as I look at the life cycle is we almost do a how are we doing report every 3 months so that to the board, so the board is staying current on it. I liked having well-being before learning. And part of my rationale on that is if the well-being's not there, the learning doesn't happen. So I liked it being listed that way, just simply because that's a piece I've seen over the years, that if we haven't solved that piece, we don't get to learning. So those are just my thoughts. Dave.
I definitely, thank you very much, Harold and Jane, just fantastic. I'm with the dynamic approach. I think it's more actionable and keeps us really in touch. But for me, for the priority areas, I think they overlap. I think they always will, and so those, I don't think we have to list those in any specific order. I think they all go together. So that's what I think they all.
Other trustees.
Yeah, so being part of the process, like, yeah, hats off to Harold and Jane for facilitating, and of course, all the senior leadership and all the other shareholders that were at the meetings. It was really well done. There are times, Jane did her thing and I wasn't quite sure where we were going, and like, here we are now. So, but that's me, right? But I really like the idea that what I heard at the tables I sat was really like, what's the measure that you're using the strategic plan, right? And that's what you really heard from those other shareholders, right? So to have that static aspect of it and have it be dynamic like that, and use it as a measure of how we're using it and the success in using it, what that looks like is good. I think also hats off to, we developed this strategic plan and really COVID and really in a muck of things, the original strategic plan, and it served us really well. And really, this is just, we're just tweaking it, right? And I think that the work that went in then really has carried us to now, and I think we're just making these tweaks, and I think it gets us to 4 years from now potentially, right? So, hats off to everybody that was involved, and yeah, I'm pretty proud of this work myself, so.
Others. John.
I think, just thank you to Harold and Jane. I think it really does hit where we are as communities in terms of like we've heard for the last year about well-being, student well-being. Seeing that as one of the top priorities is amazing. We've also heard about continued concern about the student learning, and then communication. So I think it nails all of our top priority areas. Thank you.
Just one other thing, it's also, I mean, we just had that report from about the first people's principles of learning, right? So it's all actionable and it can all change, right? So quickly.
Yeah, if you noticed at the bottom of that slide, the bedrock is our values. So those are listed there as supporting the rest of it, which I like that those sitting down there as well, Jane and Harold. So
Where is that?
right at the very bottom, you'll see our values: inclusion, diversity, fairness, due process, health, heritage, recognition. So that's kind of the foundation,
Right.
and the values. So I like that as well.
Yeah, just Jane and Harold, just to what everybody else has said, wonderful work. I have to commend you, even in its sort of draft sort of state, the layering, I'm visual, so the layering of our logos and then the way that it sort of processes through the components, and then to have this wonderful annual, like the strategy, so every year, and then to put a number by it. Just in terms of feedback, what I heard from our previous strat plan was, it looked so visual but it really lacked sort of those, every year we're going to implement at least one Indigenous informed wellness land-based learning. Like, I think we nailed it with that piece. So really good job, everybody. That just, you should be really proud.
Hear from Jane.
So where's Jane?
Jane.
Hello, it's nice to see everybody. I just appreciate your feedback as always, even Everett's. It really was a pleasure to work with that working group and with Harold. Harold is, yeah, so good, so smart. But what I would like to tell the board is what I think, there were two things that came out of it. And sometimes, and someone alluded to it around Everett, around COVID and floods, and sometimes life happens during a strategic plan's life. And I think we were really lucky that the strategic plan that was created withstood so well and stood up to all the challenges we faced. I think that having learned that, building in this dynamic piece to it is incredibly smart because it allows the board to be agile and responsive. And then the other piece I would really like to speak to is I had the pleasure of being able to spend time with a group of kids from K to 7. And I think what the board should be really proud of and aware of is what you have seen as being the priorities were the priorities that the kids spoke to. They spoke to wellness, they spoke to well-being and relationship and feeling like they belong. And then they talked about wanting to learn, and they were so clear. So I think you are really honoring kids with your discussion so far, and I'm really thankful for that. So thank you for this opportunity. It's been great.
Thanks, Jane. Very cool. I say great job and great job. I came to the first committee meeting, then I stepped in for Everett for one meeting. So seeing some of the synergies in that group was really great to see, and working with them on the flip charts when we were trying to put the action pieces there was just a fantastic group we had from teachers and administrators and SSA and our supports, the bands. It was a family that came together to create it. So that was important. So where are we?
So
Next steps.
next steps is, now that we've got that feedback, Harold, Jane, and our senior staff will work on fleshing out the document that we'll be able to bring to the committee of the whole meeting. I really appreciated our working committee that we had, and as Gordon spoke to, the diversity of the group. And part of the idea around the specific strategies is that working group could come back together on a yearly basis to help us flesh out the strategies for the following year. We recognize that, people may not be able to make a 4-year commitment, but that's okay to have new voices that become part of that working committee. From a senior staff point of view, I really like the specific strategies and the fact that, this was really grassroots built from everyone in the room, and just a real appreciation for the people that gave up their time to come. It's hard to be out of your building as an administrator. It's hard to do the sub plans when you're coming out of your school, for parents arranging, childcare so that you can be there, trustees making it work around your work schedule. But I think it is probably some of the most valuable work that we've done in the past 2 years. And I think the foundation from the previous strat plan has really set us up for success for the next 4 years.
And as we make budget decisions, you're going to have some strategies there for the new board that will drive those decisions because they'll have a roadmap.
Absolutely. Yeah, good timing.
So they will come back to us at the August committee of the whole meeting. So thank you, Jane. Thank you, Harold. You're welcome to stay connected to the rest of the meeting, but if you have other things in your evening, I know one of you might have some grandchildren and it's still sunny outside,
Thanks, guys.
Take care.
Next is our Indigenous Education Report.
So Angela and Simone always put together a really lovely document that reflects the work that we did. The one that I would highlight is our Indigenous graduation and blanketing ceremony. As Gordon mentioned, when it started, there were 12 grads. We're up to 79. And there were over 630 people that were there to recognize and support them. We've run into the good problem of it's getting tighter and tighter in that arena, which is our largest building in Merritt. But the amount of pride and dedication that we see, it is a huge undertaking to put Indigenous grad together. So a real credit to our ISAs that take the lead on that, and they all play a role in it. And Angela for her leadership. They had a really powerful message come from a Upper Nicola community member, Robert Manuel. I personally found his story really engaging, and the connection of you don't always have to know where you're going when you first come out of school. You don't know where that path is going to take you, and there's different ways of going about it. But probably one of my favorite events of the entire year. And we continue to build on our language programming. That's the last page of the report. I'm happy to say we actually have teachers that are returning. We've had a really hard time with a lot of turnover in our program. So 3 of our language teachers are coming back, and we have a new one who is a former ISA who is going to join us in our language program. I think what's really made a big difference is we were able to put a coach in place to support them. And I really think that helped with our turnover rates. But just a real credit to Angela and her department and the really great work that she's doing. Just wanted to highlight those pieces.
Yes, Gordon. Just and in that at the ceremony, the 2 student valedictorians for each were
Yes.
really, they weren't mentioned in the blurb, but they were fantastic. That one guy, he was just, I thought he was dynamic, and then of course Abigail from PSS was really well. So, yeah,
I thought, you know, we have an Indigenous premier in Manitoba, and I was looking at those 2 going,
yeah, I
reason
know.
why 10
Yeah,
years from now you can't be.
exactly.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
I think we have an early view of possible political leaders
Yeah.
coming forward and from our valleys, you know? So I thought they did an excellent job as well. And you know what, just everyone who participates in that event, you know, it really tells our story as a district that we value achievement for all and that we're sincere in our efforts around reconciliation and really incorporating those cultural and language practices into what we do every day.
And we did have students from the NVIT language class
Yeah.
speak as well.
It
And
was great.
in my mind, I'm thinking, as we've talked about a language nest or and I'm looking at John because I'm thinking as they graduate out, you know, and it might only be 4 or 5, it's how do we get them here, not to our colleagues in other districts? Because I know when I look at that graduation for the different languages, I follow NVIT, I see there's 4 up here or there's 4 over here in different parts of the, and I'm thinking like 4 can't carry it for 35, 40 years. And it's how do we, as they build that out, and then how do we build that within community? Because it was, I think that was a powerful part of it too, having those students speaking the language as well, because that's an important component is how the language.
Young man who went up and spoke, Andrew Dexel.
Yeah.
Before we started the fluency program, came and met with myself and former president and said, why aren't we doing a fluency program? And one was already in the works, so he likes to think he caused it all. And he was part of that impetus, but what you heard him speak there at the beginning, all in the language, well, he did that in 4 years in the program. So it's pretty astounding. And I think that we'll see at our grad on Friday. I think we'll see the language learning requests start to really snowball throughout the valley. So it's gonna be good.
Any other questions for Courtney? If that, we'll move on to Adrian and inclusive education, early learning and childcare update.
So my hope is that you all have a piece of felt in front of you and a brown bag. My ask is that you clear yourself a little bit of space. This is a bit of a hands-on activity. I think in your board package, you will have kind of my highlights of the month. But in terms of early learning, I thought that this would be something I could present to you in person. So welcome. Thank you for having me. As you know, we're in June, we're wrapping up, and it's next week. You're going to be invited in to welcome, to celebrate the grad class of 2026 and celebrate all that is their great journey. But tonight, what I want to do is bring you to the class of 2039. Whoa. And if that doesn't make us feel old, I'm not sure what will. However, the class of 2039 are those that will be joining us in September. And what I want to highlight today is I want to walk you through what we do in the Nicholas and Community School District to welcome those students in long before the first day in September. So tonight, you've got a piece of felt and you've got a bag. In that bag are some loose parts. I'm going to walk you through it. Basically, I looked in my junk drawer, grabbed a bunch of things, threw them in some brown paper bags, and handed it to you. Not really. But what I'm going to ask of you to do is you can take some things out, you can take all the things out. I want you to create something. I want you to play. And what it's going to be is it's going to be somewhat of a show and tell. You're going to show, I'm going to tell. So as I talk, you will play. So you can create anything. There's no rules. But I want you to be thinking about I want you to create something that represents learning. So as you're all got them out and let things roll away, I'm just going to carry on. You will play. All right. So welcome in. This is where we start. So in the beginning of spring, before kindergarten registration even starts, what we do is we hold Ready, Set, Learn activities. So in all of our elementary schools, it's so interesting. You guys are all engaged and I'm like, as the teacher in me is like, find my eyes, tell me you're focusing, but really you're doing what you're asked. So our Ready, Set, Learn events take place all across the district in all of our elementary schools. And what we do is we welcome in our families from 3 to 5 year olds. And what we do is we welcome them into the school, give them a tour of the school. They spend a few minutes in kindergarten. We have some intermediate students that'll walk them through some literacy and numeracy games. And then while we've got them entertained, we're able to offer parents and caregivers some tips and tricks of schools, how to pack a lunch, how to get involved in the school, what the pack does. Our principals are present. And what will happen is that they're just able to ask questions and get answers from the principal, just like as a welcome introductory, this is what the schools are like. And we saw families that attended numerous different Ready, Set, Learn events in different schools across the district. And every time it was just a welcome in and this is what the school has to offer. Then what happens is we hand out kindergarten registration packages. And as kindergarten registration packages come back, we provide every student in, I'll get you just to look really quickly because it's cute, a book and it calls Kindergarten Here We Come. And in this book, it's all the greatest things that kindergarten presents. And it talks about show and tell. It talks about their teacher. It talks about sitting crisscross applesauce. It talks about losing teeth. And I think my very favorite page is the page when they talk about their new best friends. And this little guy, it's great because on his first day of kindergarten, what he does is he hops on a bus and he meets his new best friend, Hannah. And Hannah's his best friend until she talks too much. And he needs a new best friend. So he picks Gus. But then Gus is playing blocks and knocks him over. So Gus can't be his new friend. He's sitting with somebody else at recess and goes on to lunch. Well, by the end of this day, this poor little guy has no new best friend. But the great news is, on the bus after school, he sat right next to his best friend, Hannah. And it just sums up everything that we want for kids through school. So all of our new class of 2039 receive the Kindergarten Here I Come books to take home and chit chat, which then takes us into our stepping into kindergarten events. So registrations happened. We have our schools reach out to those who have registered and we do the kindergarten, stepping into kindergarten program where students come in to the kindergarten classroom with the kindergarten teacher and walk through kindergarten, and each school decides what works best for them. Sometimes it's on the kindergarten teacher's prep time. Sometimes they do it after school sessions, and they'll do it for 3 to 4 weeks throughout May. And then what happens is in that program, we provide every student our welcome to kindergarten bags.
Awesome.
It's really great. And so then it's like, what's in the bag? And so one of the greatest, cutest things you'll ever see each of our students receive a little t-shirt that we work with our Indigenous Education Council. And so it has the pictograph of happy, and then in both our Insulchin and Inliketmik language, it has the word happy. So I think in Inliketmik we would say kaka. And then in Insulchin, I believe it's mint. And that just means happy. And so all our little new crew get to have matching t-shirts and start their day in a great.
Does it say future graduate of 2039?
Class of 2039? Yeah.
One cross.
Future goals. Also in the Welcome to Kindergarten bags are some resources for families. It talks about play, which we're going to talk a little bit about. It's got the early learning framework for families, and then of course the little workbook. So our students entering the French immersion program will receive it en français, and then our English speaking students will get the When I Go to Kindergarten, and it's just a little workbook to work through, all part of the early working framework. Also in this little fun bag, which you guys don't have in front of you, is their loose parts bag. So you have the loose parts bag with the caution that says small parts, as you can see, proceed with caution. What I didn't provide you with are the scissors and the glue stick and the crayons and the fun juggling scarf and the Play-Doh. But what you will notice is very much the same loose parts that students have. And included with it are 2 books that come from the early learning framework. And if you just take a second to look, it's like, let me tell you a story. And in there is pictures of creations with many of the same objects similar to what you have. And it talks about telling a story just from what you're building. And then the other one is how many, which very much same thing, where in the world you'll see numbers, what you can create in different patterns, and so on and so forth, along with some really neat cards for families so that they're understanding what these loose parts are, how they can help facilitate play with their child, where they'll see these things, and then what sort of what sort of skills it promotes. So all of those are part of the loose parts. What I do want to make sure I do a really good job of explaining is you will all notice that in your loose parts, you have some natural elements from the earth. It's not just plastic buttons, but you should have some shells and some little pieces of wood and something. And this really highlights, they're very thoughtfully included, and it very much works with. But in BC education, the land nature-based experimental learning connects really well with our First Peoples principles of learning in several ways. In one way, it's engaging with nature. So sticks and stones and leaves, they develop the child physically, emotionally, socially, and it roots the education in the physical reality of the local area. I recognize seashells aren't local to our area, but they're wildly fun to use in the creation. And of course, they're local to the BC area. We also have, by playing with items that are immediate to our region, it anchors children to their local environment and their ecosystem. It teaches the acute sensory awareness and an understanding of the natural rhythms of the land. So that really good connection to place. Interacting with nature models our gratitude and respect. So children are learning to give back and acknowledging that they're part of the natural world rather than just separate from it. And then the traditional Indigenous upbringing relied on active play to build essential survival skills and community relationships. So using those natural, unstructured, adventurous play continues on this tradition. So these bags go home full of resources for students and families just to start getting an idea of the importance of play. Really quick check-in, how are we doing? Good, okay, next slide. So besides loose parts, when we talk about early learning and welcoming into kindergarten, what are the other opportunities that we allow for play? So we have in kindergarten classrooms, all at homes, you see that there's the dramatic play. You know, the center time when they create the grocery store, and what that's creating is all that great numeracy skills, the social skills, literacy, sequencing, the oral communication. We have block play, which is really wildly important, and that is the spatial awareness. It's funny because resilience is up there, and if any of you have those little blocks in your loose parts, you try to stack them, and when they knock over, see how resilient you are. And so I'll often think of that, and it's got those good early engineering and physics concepts in the math vocabulary right from a very young age. And then, of course, we have outdoor play, which supports that risk assessment and the gross motor development, emotional regulation, environmental stewardship. So those are some other ways that we see play. But this is an important one because this is always what comes back to, but are they learning enough? And you think about, we're sitting here talking about increasing our literacy rates and our numeracy rates. And we're like, so why are we wasting the best years play? Well, because play-based learning is intentional, rigorous, and purposeful. I think sometimes we think it's just this like free-for-all chaos in a kindergarten room, but in fact, it's not. It's very intentional. And educators are able to observe and question and scaffold, come alongside and extend thinking with students. Teachers are able to assess through documentation and through observation and watching how kids are interacting and how they're playing. Through authentic demonstration of learning. And sometimes, you know, it's just as effective as marking those worksheets. And then I think it's really important that in BC, as part of our education, play is not viewed as a break from learning, but play is in fact the vehicle for learning. When we talk about how does this connect to the BC core competencies, it was great. So when Val was presenting her courses, she was very much talking about the BC core competencies. I don't know who's throwing items around, but but the core competencies, these are the things that they don't change from kindergarten through grade 12. We're focusing on communication, we're focusing on thinking, and we're focusing on personal and social awareness. What does change from kindergarten to grade 12 is that the expectations, they become more sophisticated. And if I think of our kindergarten selves communicating, we're storytelling and we're negotiating, we're working on oral language and collaborative play. In thinking, it's that creative thinking, problem solving, innovation and inquiry. And then of course, the personal and social is that self-regulation, identity, social responsibility, and relationship building. I think if you want to think about your kindergarten version of yourself, you're practicing taking turns. And then by grade 12, students should be able to be facilitating conversations and discussions and adapting their communication for different audiences. If your kindergarten version of thinking is simply learning how to generate ideas during play, the grade 12 version is creating or using those creative and critical thinking skills for the real world problems. And probably my favorite is the personal and social awareness. The kindergarten, what are we doing? We're learning to identify and name emotions. In grade 12, and speaking from experience of my very own too, we're working on identifying and recognizing emotions. No, I'm kidding. By grade 12, we're working on those leadership skills and we're working on the resilience and ethical decision making. So we're very much play is the first part of where we want to be with core competencies. Okay, so now I want to take you from what's in, I want you to look at what you've created. In a perfect world, I wouldn't be standing up here talking. I would have not asked you to multitask. I would have given you the scissors and the glue. You likely would have asked your neighbor for their clothes peg, and you probably would have looked across the room for other parts that you could to create something. But for this activity, I want you to just look, what did you make? And why did you make what you did? Do we think anybody in the room made the same thing?
No.
Did your thinking evolve while your hands were busy? Did you start somewhere and then get somewhere else? Yeah.
Drifted a bit.
Oh, it's so kidding.
And was it hard not to want to talk to the person beside you and to look what they were doing and try to engage in conversation or,
Yeah, I wanted to get some stuff from
yeah,
him.
right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, I set you up to fail in terms
Yeah.
of like you're doing it in
Totally.
isolation, but if you think about what this looks like for kids, that's what it is. And what you need to know is that kids are wired to learn through curiosity, experimentation, connection, and imagination. And what we do is we want our kindergarten classrooms to protect and nurture this. And my hope is that it did bring you back to your imagination and play and learning. Yeah.
So when you do this, did you actually ask the kids to say why they did it and how they, because that to me is really putting together what they were thinking.
I think if we were naturally doing it, I think you and Trustee Jepson would likely be talking through it and storytelling. And my guess is somebody would have this little person out and somebody's gonna be telling what this little person's doing within the story or
Right.
so on and so forth. And I think that's the beauty of it, is I think that if you're playing by yourself, you're telling a story in your head. And if you have an adult that's gonna come along and say, tell me about your picture, what did you build? Daryl's got really something going on, like he's got the snake that he's
Wild.
the most that he had to get to MSS.
This isn't his first good job.
My guess is for some, for myself, if you started me off and said there was no rules and to create something, I'd be like, well, this is too hard for me. Somebody just tell me what to make.
There's one rule.
I like those, the pipe cleaners with the beads that I could make that. I could make myself a bracelet, that would be concrete. But I hope that that's.
How do we know? I know.
How do we know who won? Now you're speaking my language. You know, it's, so with that, I welcome questions. I hope I brought you into the world of play a little bit. You're welcome to, take your bag of loose parts home. If you leave them behind, I'll be able to collect them tomorrow and use them again, but I'm happy for that.
Just love introducing the grad class of 2030. If we can embed that in our strat plan, how will this impact? Like, it's just such a beautiful way of not just being here now or living often in our previous, is like, how about those kids that entered kindergarten today? It's really beautiful. Thank you for that.
And that, the fact that we discussed the bags.
Yeah.
And it was just, yeah, so awesome.
Very cool.
Very.
Yeah, so it's a great way to say, welcome to the Nicholas and Milton School District. We welcome you. We're excited to have you, and man, is it gonna be a journey. Nicholas quit.
Yeah. Thank you so much. It's so awesome. And these were in your house?
It's like took out the crap bin and thought, you know what? These are just what we built for 100 of them.
So cool. Justin put all his stuff out in little piles, exactly what the stuff was, and then he started, he didn't just go in there.
So sorting, that's it, like,
Stolen.
yeah, right.
And Lego people up there would know.
Yeah.
Kind of bad taking it down, right?
I know, we have photos, so your creation is preserved for eternity.
Great.
Sending them all off to a child psychologist.
Oh, no.
And the definition is what did we create? Mine was like access ways to stuff. So there was like on ramps to the whole thing.
Holy cow.
I built a circle. And you just have a good handful of it because you know where all goes, but they get up.
I wanna know where you found those little tiny fluff balls.
Oh, the little pom-poms.
Don't mind it.
They were adorable. Probably the dogs.
I only used one.
It seems like that's me, other needs.
Empire, yeah, I did.
Sounds by river.
I saw the river.
Yeah.
Seen your son at the.
Oh, yeah.
I saw him there too.
Our next item is the Quebec trip for Ecole Merit Central Elementary School.
So our Quebec trip has become a yearly tradition. With the program relocation to Ecole Merit Central Elementary, it's one of the things that we would like to transition over. You'll see the completed package that Mr. Sandberg has supplied. Everything is complete. And what my recommendation would be that you would approve the outer province field trip. The field trip companies like to plan well in advance, so they ask for deposits and those sorts of things, but we've had really positive feedback from both parents and kids, and it's one of the things that's probably most memorable from their school days and their French immersion program experience.
A motion that we.
Turn that over to
Oh, I'll move. Very Raider.
Nice. Glad you were able to do that.
seconded by Everett.
Oh.
He was so busy poking, right?
Yeah. Good work, John.
So yeah, it's great to see the trip. I think at the last PAC meeting, they talked about. I'm not sure if they talked about it going to every second year.
They're talking every second year with the numbers.
But it's good to, I think that's, as I say, the number of kids is part of that. And the discussion was around Quebec City specific as opposed to two communities. I think they found when they were in Montreal, you could speak English just fine. And so Quebec gave you really the chance to pure French. And I forwarded a couple of things to Brandon at some places they might want to visit, including the catacombs there, which I just is neat underneath one of the churches there. I think the kids wouldn't go. But anyways, I know they have started some of their fundraising, so we wanted to make sure we got this in front of the board. And as I say, they were looking at working early with the tour company to get some discounts on that. So, and it's been a great program. The kids who presented it at the last PAC meeting, presented it. One group presented in French, the other group presented in English. It was great to see them practicing their language and presenting it at the last PAC meeting.
Very cool.
So that's really cool. So, anyone opposed? Just look at all the eyes. Okay, great. It is carried. And great to see that tradition continuing. I noticed they didn't need a trustee chaperone. Superintendent's report.
And I hopefully did not pick the one event you wanted to talk to from your PAC meetings. I'm going to start with Community Learning Center, and probably the thing that we're most excited about is we have 13 CLC students who will be participating in graduation. 2 have earned honor cords and 3 achievement cords have been handed out. And of this, 10 are regular Dogwood diplomas and 3 are adult Dogwood diplomas. So this is changing the trajectory of children's lives. And it is truly a team effort at CLC. Their admin, their teacher, who is a driving force, their ISA, and our youth worker have done amazing work. This was many years in the making to get to these numbers. So if you come across our staff from CLC, please congratulate them. I'm not sure there's another school district that would be able to speak as highly about an alternate graduation list. So just something to really be proud of. Looking at Merit Bench, one of the things was project-based learning, and this one was super cute. They planned and designed a taco truck, and then they got to have a taco fiesta. And you can see Oliver enjoying his tacos in the picture below. part of the reason I picked this one is I was doing supervision in this class about a week and a half ago, and they're absolutely adorable, and they love Mr. Denton. So, John Ellison, you know, Crystal really outdoes herself with everything that she shares and the pictures. The one that I was going to highlight is they had a cross-curricular project going on in grade 2, where they did story writing, character development. They had to present and had to write a story. So, you know, the written and the oral component, just really nice to see the kids combining those different curricular areas and demonstrating the competencies together. Looking at Skies, the one I was going to highlight, when you have an online community, part of the struggle that we have sometimes is how do you create that community when you're not physically in the room with one another? But one of the ways that they chose to do this is Mrs. Grimshire, who was here presenting earlier. They had a STEM challenge, and these were 2 of the students that are holding their prizes from these great efforts. You know, we often have contests and different activities you can participate in our brick and mortar school, so it's nice to see that they're extending that to an online environment. Looking at PSS, we always honor the missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls, and we do an annual walk. This isn't all the year round issue, and honestly, we do some groundbreaking work around this topic in our district, where a lot of other people and districts shy away from this. We hit it head on. And if you remember from Gordon's opening of our last meeting, it touches personally here in our own community. So this isn't a problem that exists somewhere else. It's a problem that's, you know, actually been in our lived experience. So just one of the really good yearly events that our students participate in. Looking at Collettville, we make a real effort to try to make the French immersion program cohesive between Collettville and the French immersion students at MSS. And they wrapped up the year with a game of California kickball and popsicles. Just nice that they can have that group come together. You know, it's a unique experience going through schooling and doing French immersion. So nice that connection doesn't sever as they move on to grade 8 and above. Looking at Vermilion Forks, they did their memorable camp trip. And I was at Vermilion Forks and I saw their list of activities they have till the end of June. They're a pretty busy group, but our principal, Pete Benjenny, went with the kids to the camp. It was a great experience, and something that they will probably remember for a very long time. Looking at Nicola Canford, tree planting. So Nicola Canford in particularly does a great job with on the land learning. So they were doing tree planting and participating in some activities. They did interaction with forestry workers and volunteers. And you can see from the smiles in the pictures, they had a great day where, you know, they were connecting in nature and on the land. Looking at Central Elementary, Natasha outdid herself like she always does. But the one I wanted to highlight is we talk a lot about student voice and student leadership, and they actually had students teaching students. So something that was your talent or your gift, something that you excel at, you know, whether that was hip hop dancing or using a sewing machine, you know, creating pipe cleaner flowers, whatever it is, it's a chance to show your peers and a chance for everyone to shine. So I thought that was really well done. Looking at Diamondville, the one I'm going to highlight, and if you look through here, you'll see that our other schools were also at the Merritt Speedway, but they got to be welcomed into the pits, got to meet the drivers, explored the race cars up close, and really just had a great visit to the Speedway. And thank you for the ones that organized that in the Speedway for making that a possible field trip for our students. Looking at Merritt Secondary School, they've had a lot of science-based field trips. One of them is they did a forensic science-focused learning experience at Thompson River University. Our physics students went to Vancouver for hands-on learning, data collection activities at Playland. So, you know, living physics in a real way. I just thought that was a great way to like make the real world connections with it. I normally only highlight one, but I am gonna highlight one other one. The electric car was finished, and a number of our senior staff, the students at MSS, and the staff over there were able to see the fruits of their labor as they spun around the field. Just really great that our community comes together and our local businesses donate and help make something a reality for our kids that they may not be able to experience in any other ways. But what you will really notice as you go through this, it almost gets longer and longer every month. I think that's a great problem to have, because this highlights the good things that are going on in our district. And for me as superintendent, it gives me an opportunity to highlight the good work that our teachers, our support staff, and our admin are doing. And we often hear, negative news always travels faster than positive. And I think this is a really great way of sharing the wonderful things that we do, and giving kids a chance to shine in a different way.
Thank you, Courtney. Next web report as always, and thank you to that assistant that helps put it together for you.
Yeah.
I know there's some things behind the scene there. This brings us to the 27-28 major 5-year capital plan submission, of which the ministry is going to approve all of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Quite sure.
Start. Okay, so what you have before you is a submission that we would like to make to the ministry by the end of the month for major capital projects. And you see the 3 there. We're probably very familiar with those 3. We've been asking for them for quite some time. Of course, the ministry has many projects that get delivered from all 60 school districts, and they have to prioritize. One of these items that I want to bring your attention to is the addition to Merritt Bench School. We've been asking for a gymnasium and is it 4 classrooms? 5 classrooms for some time, and we were advised actually by the ministry that we should put in our submission that we'd be willing to accept modular classrooms as the addition, because the ministry is really trying to push that as a solution to address more school district needs. And so there's potential to see that addition come to fruition in a much quicker manner if they offer us, and we're willing to accept a modular classroom, which from a staff and operations standpoint, we believe we should do. So we're hoping the board is supportive of that.
And if you think back several years, Nicola Cantrip was one of the pilot projects in the province for creating a modular school. It's stood the test of time really well. So
It's certainly not the same old portables. They're like buildings.
Exactly.
That was more or less my question. Like, we're not talking like, here's a cube
Oh, no.
portable. It's more like a.
Oh, you
connected
think of a
modular.
Nicola Cantrip.
Okay.
you are able to get up to Nicola Cantrip, you look at that and it's
Yeah.
how many years has that been there? I'm thinking, and we literally, we took down the other school. We actually took the other school down after school closed, June.
But everybody in CMS.
Put in CMS, and then by August, we had all the module pieces in place. And so when the ministry was going, oh, it'll take 2 to 3 years, I used to say to them, and Victoria, no, take a look at Nicola Canford. Like everything was built off site, but we were able to very quickly do it. And
So. Yeah. It's good. It's insane.
so I'm going to, if there's no discussion on this, going to look for a motion to approve that plan. Look over at our facilities
Who's the
trustee.
opposition?
Sure.
Do it.
We're still on the submission for the.
5 years.
I need a motion that we're gonna put this plan forward.
So. I'll second.
Any further discussion? So
Let's get them all. Trifecta or
Well,
whatever. you
I
call
think
it.
the other thing we heard was bench is far enough from the downtown core that it can kind of stand alone, because that was one of our other concerns was. I think that was the capacity issue, and was kind of like it's far enough from the downtown that it makes sense, so. Anyone opposed? Carried. Operation managers update. This would be Mr. Finnegan.
Okay, so. Everything that come before was great, but now this is gonna be phenomenal.
See, the first picture is a car you built.
Yes. So, we're just gonna highlight facilities, transportation, custodial and capital projects as we. Some of the stuff we've done and some of the stuff we have in the future. So. The base departments, we really focus on the facilities, obviously transportation, custodial projects, safety and energy management. Safety and energy management is super important, obviously, in everything. We strive in everything we do to make sure that down the road, it's going to be safer and more energy efficient for the ongoing years. As everything's going up, we need to make sure we're doing the best we can. So most of our efforts have been directed towards these, all our buildings are getting older, and we've really pushed towards the HVAC and the air quality. Replacing rooftop units and many other parts to ensure that the safe and the energy management rolls into that, which I will identify on the road here. But first, we're gonna look at our work orders. So my wonderful team works very hard. They're very passionate. Every Tuesday morning we meet. We have a weekly meeting. We go through what's going on. Our number one rule we discuss, and I probably said this before, that if anything is affecting classrooms or students, that's our priority. So we get all these work orders, total 2,567 between September 1st and June 2nd when I did this report. And any one of those that come in could be a broad range of anything, but if it's affecting students or schools in any way that's going to affect learning, that's the priority. So that's drilled in everybody's head, and that's what we do. So right now, with those 2,567 work orders out there, we got 93% of them completed. So we're averaging about 257 work orders a month, which we break it down to each individual worker, it's about 32. So that is work orders alone. That doesn't, we're not talking about when you walk into school and they said, hey, can you fix this door? Hey, there's lots of other stuff. The emergency things that happen that don't get put in work orders. So if I want to guess, work orders are probably 60% of what they do day to day. And then I just did a little breakdown per school on what it looks like that we're coming on the work orders. So jump into AFG from last year. Everything yellow was completed. Blue is projects were started. This is last year. So AFG kind of goes between 2 years for us. The kind of the fiscal year for AFG is March. So the end of March, AFG ends. April, the new fundings kind of come in. So this was last year. Some of the highlighted things that we did were we did HVAC duct cleaning, which we started about 8 years ago or 10 years ago, and everything's on a rotating about 5-year for each school. So we've made it through the whole district over the years because we can do multiple schools, and we're continuing that process, working into that efficiency and the clean air for all the schools. And then with that, there's been boiler repairs. We're looking at dust collectors, making sure those are working properly. We installed some hand dryers, did some fire panel upgrades, just a multitude of projects throughout the the year last year, and that was 41 projects within AFG. So if you jump to the new ones, so this is what we've started, and this is since, say, March. We have heating controls on the way, we have HVAC cleaning set up. We finished the playground swing set at Diamondville. We've got dust collectors serviced and ready to go. And what I want to highlight, where was it? That, well, I'll get it to in a minute. I'm jumping ahead of myself. So yeah, so that's where we're set, and this project list of 37 projects will rotate until March of next year, when this funding is pretty much done, and then we roll into the next year. So that's where we are right now, and now those are the projects to come throughout the next year. So we jump into capital projects from last year. If you happen to go over the science rooms over at MSS, we completed 2 last year. Great projects. Those rooms were exactly the same from when I went to school there. Probably Everett, and yeah, so they were dated. They needed some updating, so we did 2 of them. We have the next 2 slated for this year coming up. We also did a bunch of HVAC work, some rooftop units, MSS shops. MSS shops were the old system where there was no outside air circulated into the rooms. So what we've done is we did a huge project of putting actual rooftop units on that bring in fresh air, heat it, and it circulates. So that was a major project that we're doing. We're also doing that in the gym at John Allison right now. So it's about 3/4 finished. The bench had an electrical service upgrade. If you remember way back, there was lines that come off the street. They went through a tree to the school. About 3 years ago, I pulled into the school and there was a kid crawling up the pipe hanging off the high power lines. Yeah, so right there, I yelled at him. I started that project and we got the power underground to that school, eliminating all those issues. So that was a great project. And then we did kitchen upgrades. So mostly the kitchen upgrades were just appliances. We put new commercial dishwashers in, commercial style refrigerators, and ovens to help those. So moving on to what we're working on now. So multiple schools with HVAC, continuing the trend to make sure that we are working on that air quality and systems. The science rooms are the 2 rooms. We're lucky enough to get 2 buses replaced this year. We missed the last 3 years. We don't receive any buses. So we get 2 this year. And then we've replaced a truck, a van, a dump truck, which are all done. And with the HVAC system, we're installing CO detectors in all the buildings. So there's a new upgrade or standard that any building that has gas-fired equipment pushing heat into a building has to have CO2 monitors or carbon monoxide monitors, sorry, to ensure that there's not a problem. If there is, it to be alerted. So it's the room and the surrounding rooms, that anything that's connected to that. So most of our schools have rooftops that are gas-fired, and part of this HVAC is we are looking at installing all those carbon monoxide monitors throughout. Continuing on. Oh, sorry.
So there's no CO2 monitoring in schools at all right now, despite the fact that we have
Yes.
gas.
Yeah, it's not a standard within the school districts, but it's now coming. Yeah. Yeah, and we want to be kind of ahead of the curve. It hasn't been pushed on us yet, but we're jumping on it to make sure. Like anything that's been updated, like Bench School was updated 2 years ago with their HVAC system. It's all installed, it's ready to go. John Ellison has it right now, and we're expanding on it. And Vermilion, I literally got a quote an hour ago for that school. Yeah, so we're jumping right on it. Okay. Emergency work. Well, we've had many emergencies throughout the year. HVAC, it's some small roof leaks, transportation, drivers, buses breaking down, the common stuff that we're running around trying to make sure that students get to do what they do. We've had some alarm and fire panel systems. And those are just kind of some of the issues that happened throughout the year. But the big one was the Danville sewer system failed. And I want to say this is still kind of related to the flood. So what we did is we cameraed it, we figured out where the problem was. We had a really good look, and there was a huge belly in the pipe, so stuff would collect and then back up, and the school would back up. There was no choice but to dig it up. But when we dug it up, asbestos pipe, which is lots of fun. So we had to have that abated. And then we were able to switch everything out and put a new pipe in. So it's all completed now. It'll be paved on the 16th, I believe. And everything is flowing as well as it could be.
That's actually not where it was supposed to be. We built the addition there.
Yeah.
We contracted for everything to be connected over to Kootley with a new line. So this, yeah, Clapperton.
Yeah.
So this is, so you're going like, well, it can't be there, Daryl, because I know it was like, yeah, but
there was hours of standing on the parking lot with the scope and pushing the head down because you find the head underground. And we were over there and it's actually going that way because on the plans it says it goes that way, but it was actually going that way. And once we figured it out and started following it, and then it started to make sense. So we have actually 2 sewer tie-ins to that school that we didn't even know we had. Yes, I should.
If it's flood related, does insurance cover that?
We actually talked about that today.
To that, yeah.
And we're gonna look into it. Yeah, we're gonna contact SPP and see what we can do, for sure. Transportation. So as I said, 2 new buses. The buses that we're replacing have miled out and aged out. In previous years, before the ministry kind of tightened things up, it was either or 320 or 12 years. Now you have to meet both. So that's kind of why we had a gap in getting buses. Our big struggle is hiring drivers. If you notice, there's some fancy banners here and in Princeton. There's one at the basketball, and then if you drive by Riverside, there's a banner on their fence too. So hopefully we get a little bit of traction on that, see what happens. And then come September, we can kind of have a full slate of drivers.
I had a question, Daryl, just out of curiosity, because of the mileage and age, does that force you to change your strategy with having to like rotate buses through different routes so they don't?
100%.
Okay.
Yeah, so we have some routes like Douglas Lake, and the one that goes out towards Ellis and kind of that area.
Yeah.
They're close to an hour.
Yeah, so they would get high mileage way before their 12
Yeah.
years.
Yeah, so roughly halfway through the year, we'll flip it with another bus. Yeah, and try to keep everything even.
Yeah.
So field trips, of course, the outside of regular bus runs each day. 25, 26, Merritt had 300, Princeton had 93. So this is, we do the regular runs, and then this is outside of that. So they go to Kamloops, they go to Penticton, the game farm, whatever. Sports, all that stuff. Regular bus routes. We transport in Merritt 326 students. So do all the math, and it's 119,000 trips for students we transport. And in Princeton, 101,000. In the year. So lots of students going in every direction. Custodial obviously is kind of one of those ones that we just know it's there and we kind of let them do their thing, but it's super important. Things need to be clean, efficient. If students, teachers come in the next day and their classroom's a mess and it wasn't clean, it's not the learning environment that we want to ensure we have. So our custodians are very passionate about what they do. They do the best they can, and the cleaning, and every year we seem to have some type of outbreak where there's more students sick at certain schools or teachers, that type of thing. I'm in contact with the principals lots. They'll phone me, say, hey, we have this problem. I'll send an extra custodial to there, and we'll do all the touch points. We'll sanitize, we'll do all that type of stuff and try to nip it in the bud as soon as we can. So yeah, it's a very important part of the school operations. So just a couple of facts here. There's 396,000 square feet that's cleaned, and total cleaning per year is like 73 million square feet. So that's a lot of mopping. A lot of mopping. And that's kind of the end of the report.
You mentioned that our custodial one, and last year we went to that was the 10-year, but I know a lot of people had vacation time, so this will probably be that first year when we're totally looking at that and how we're doing that in the summer. How are you envisioning?
So we put up postings for a cleaning crew throughout the summer, which will right now consist of 4 individuals. Nobody from Princeton applied, so I'll be sending people from Merritt to Princeton to clean those schools. And I'm anticipating it's between the 4 of them. There might be a 5th, depending on how things work out. Probably a month to go through all the schools, clean everything, desks, walls, windows, all that type of stuff.
That kind of aims for by mid-August, so as teachers start coming back kind of that last week, that's kind of our target to.
Everything should be ready and cleaned and good to go. Great stuff, Daryl. Thank you.
It's so huge. Like it's huge. You know it.
Keep it full.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
Just quickly, the move is gonna happen this summer. Did you wanna
Yes.
speak a little bit about it?
So we've also hired 2 extra staff that were custodians that they'll work through the summer. So I'll have to start 6 for the move. We're going to start the Monday after school closes. We've been working closely with Misty and Brandon, Natasha, and just mapping out exactly what we need to do. Which rooms are going where. I should have brought the paper. It's pretty funny right now. There's colors and arrows and everything everywhere. But what we're trying to do is ensure that when we take classroom from Collettville and put it in Central, it's going from A to B, and we're not doing 3 or 4 moves. I don't know if it's luckily or what, but we have lots of experience with moving from the floods. So yeah, we put that to use, and I'm anticipating by the end of July that majority of everything will be moved. And then from there, we can do all the little bits and pieces that, of course, is going to come up.
I'm glad to hear that Brandon and Natasha are part of that process.
From day one, we needed their help, 100%. Yeah.
Thank you, Daryl. So the next item is amendment bylaw 2.23.
So what you have before you is, our bylaw 223 is our procedural bylaws, so effectively how we run board meetings. And, we've brought together a new clause that we'd like to add to this bylaw. Which you can see in there regarding, the lead up to, trustee elections and how we would suspend, any delegations, in the lead up in September and October. So that there isn't the risk of promoting political candidates. So we gave this notice, at the last board meeting as per the rules in this bylaw, specifically clause 1.2 that we need to, bring it to the previous meeting. And so now I'm recommending, that we do all 3 readings of this bylaw.
So I'm going to ask for first and second reading, then we'll actually need a motion to go to third reading. So I moved by trustee Ward, seconded by trustee Kent Laidlaw. Anyone opposed? Now I need a motion to go to third reading.
So moved.
Anyone opposed? If it's not unanimous, you're coming back in July. That seemed to work. Okay. Third and final reading. Mover and seconders.
Motion.
Seconded. Okay, thank you, gentlemen. Anyone opposed? That is carried. The other piece we need is a trustee elections bylaw, which is 1.26.
Do you want me to speak to that?
Yes.
Okay. So before you is a trustee bylaw. This is something we need to do, at every cycle of trustee election. Is the procedure of how we conduct trustee elections. So I won't go through all the specifics, but effectively, it outlines that we have 3 electoral areas. Thankfully, we have the town of Princeton and the city of Merritt will handle the elections for those trustees in those areas, and the school board will have to handle the election for the electoral areas of TNRD. Just because the TNRD itself doesn't necessarily know if they're going to do an election, or so we're leaving it to that the district will run itself. It seems the most expeditious and prudent to do that. So this just outlines everything that we need to have in place through the school act to run our election. Again, looking for 3 readings of this one.
Also, you get to be board chair for about 20.
That's
Exciting. Take it on longer. So, mover for first and second reading, trustee Ward, trustee Hoisington. Anyone opposed? Motion to go to third reading. Trustee Rayner, trustee Kent Laidlaw. Anyone opposed? Motion for third and final reading. Trustee Chenoweth and trustee Hoisington. Anyone opposed? Thank you. Those are carried, so we can have elections in October.
Thank you.
Next is the preliminary annual budget bylaw. If you recall, we're doing second and hopefully third reading tonight. Over to you.
Okay, so I've just included the budget template in the package. This hasn't changed from the last board meeting. There's no adjustments that were made. So just looking to see if there's any last questions from trustees.
I'm looking at trustee Rayner as part of the finance committee to move second reading.
Move second reading of the annual budget.
And a seconder. Trustee Hoisington. Anyone opposed? Need a motion to go to third reading.
So moved.
Seconded by trustee Kent Laidlaw. Anyone opposed? Third and final reading. Back to you, trustee Rayner, as finance.
So moved.
Seconded by trustee Jepson.
Thanks, Jesus.
Anyone opposed to that? Carried. The next piece is looking at some movement of our restricted funds. To the Secretary Treasurer.
Okay, I'm bringing this forward to trustees tonight because this is our last board meeting before we end the year. Going into July, the finance team will be putting together the year-end financial statements. Of course, at this moment, we don't know where we'll fiscally end the year, whether we'll be in a surplus or deficit. Forecasting, it looks like we will be in a surplus position, or a what we call here in the nonprofit world, the excess revenue over expenses. So staff is just looking for direction from the board as to where to direct any potential surplus when we put together the financial statements. Because it's the board that directs restricted funds, not staff that does that. Staff makes the recommendation, but the board ultimately passes a motion. So because there is some uncertainty here, what we've proposed is a potential drawdown of any surplus going in rank order, as I've suggested in the memo here.
Okay, the superintendent to talk to the investment in literacy. That was one piece that Finance Committee saw as a high priority.
So one of the things that we presented on frequently when we were going through our school closure process is that our literacy numbers need to come up. We're below the province, and we need to close that gap. There's been previous initiatives around literacy, but I think where we may have gone wrong, and some of it has to do with the timing, COVID, floods, fires. It wasn't a normal time. So when we did joyful literacy and we made the investment, it didn't flow out quite the way that it was planned to be. And I think the piece that was lacking was that coaching model and that accountability piece. So we're investing significantly in leveled learning intervention kits. They do work. I've used them before in other districts where I've been, but they're a program that requires fidelity. So part of what we're asking for here is also money to continue to refresh our literacy resources, but some temporary coaching positions. You know, why we already have 2 coaches planned, these ones require specific training and time. We ran a pilot at BFE this year and we saw some really good success in moving literacy rates. So we're going to roll this out with our SSTs, and then we hope to roll this out to interested classroom teachers. So we've bought the materials, now we need someone to help them implement it in the classroom. It's a short-term investment. The idea is that we will build capacity in our staff. What I've noticed in my time here, our schools, I think, would benefit from a refresh of resources, and we've been trying to build on that the last 2 years, especially this year. But we also recognize that people need support in implementing it. We can't just add another thing to their plate and say, read a manual. That elbow-to-elbow support, I think, would make a real difference.
Thank you. So this is investing in both our students and our staff. That second one, we talked about moving our unrestricted funds are supposed to be between 2% and 4%. We thought it prudent to move it to 3%. We also, there's another percentage, which is deferred maintenance for Central, where we thought we need to be putting some dollars aside there. We know the system under the floors there, where the pipes are pitted, that in the next 2 to 4 years is going to need replacement. And so this is the first part of putting some dollars aside for that for deferred maintenance, because we're not hopeful that the ministry is going to fund it. So, and we know, I think, Daryl, we need about 1.2 to 1.4 million. So we're going, let's use 300,000 of that to start building on that, so we take less of a hit later on when all of a sudden we have to do it if they should the ministry not fund. The other restricted funds, the side summer school staffing is 100,000. You know, in theory, our students should be finishing in the summer. We know students continue on in September, October, so making sure we have the funds there to continue that staffing so those students can finish. We also know those students who take a course for us for the first time in summer school, a lot of times then go, oh, I'd like to do some more courses with you. So it also a bit of a marketing piece with us, but this is to make sure we have the staff there. And we know we're light on the cybersecurity piece, so putting another 200,000 there. We also know DPAC took to BC CPAC where to try and get the province to actually be funding that. If that happens, great. But if that's not happening, we know we're light on dollars there. Should we have an attack, it may be closer to when, simply because when we look around the province where there's been attacks, it's cost in excess of $1 million. And so I think we're at
Yes, we're 50.
450. So this will bring us up to 650. And should the province decide that it should actually have a pool that takes care of that, then we'll be able to use the dollars elsewhere. But it's putting that into a specific restricted fund based on the experience we've seen across the province in both post-secondaries and K-12.
Can I speak to the?
Yep.
So there's one other thing I snuck in there. I didn't highlight it much. Each year we give the school, each of our schools a district allocated budget to buy school supplies. I think, textbooks, paper, staff initiatives, science equipment. And we have a policy right now, especially in the years that things were lean, that we don't allow schools to carry forward any excess that they had underspent. It all comes back to the district. We've discussed this as senior leaders that while we still want to adhere to that, we think it's viable to pull that money back, but hold it in a restricted fund for general school equipment upgrades. We know that there's volleyball nets and things like that the schools are in need of. And they might be looking at classroom resources and saying, we need to put our money there. They might be a bit shy at overspending just due to the years of being told that things were lean. So we just want to do them a favor by saying we'll hold that money for you and we can discuss together if there's larger needs beyond what your budget can take. So I'm also proposing that we hold any residual funds that the schools may have underspent this year in this restricted fund to meet those equipment replacement needs.
Jamie and then Leah.
For that holding them as restricted funds, would it be held for each school? So if, for example, say PSS has an excess 50,000 and MSS has 10,000, does PSS get to keep its original money, or is it going into one single?
It would go into a single, at least for now, I think this is what we've decided. It would go into one single district held fund, and then we're looking at the needs of all 11 schools.
So my concern with that would be that if one school is, they're budgeting well, they've got more overage, they're gonna feel like their excess money goes to another school. And I can see that getting spicy. I would have concerns about that.
But the reason that they have the money.
Leah, and then Dave, and then Justin.
And maybe Mark wants to speak to that, because I'm curious as well. I think I was curious.
Well, I think, and maybe Courtney can speak to it too. These are discussions we need to have with each school principal to say, really, they should be spending the funds they have this year. They shouldn't be trying to hoard funds because we really want them to be spending on the students in their school this year. And we should be having ongoing discussions. What good things are you using the resources for? But because we're finding ourselves, well, okay, they've done what they've done, this year is over. Let's hold these funds, they have another kick at it next year with their new set of funds. And yeah, and I'm sensitive to that too, because I don't want schools to feel like they're subsidizing somebody else, but that will be conversations that we also all have to have with the principals to say,
Do you mind if I just add to that? We don't let them keep the money anyways, so it goes back to the district. I've encouraged them, as has Mark, they need to spend their money in that year. I was just at BFE and what I said is, I don't want the money back from your school budget. I want you to spend it on your kids and on resources that you need. There may be a small amount left over. Honestly, our school budgets are not that high. So the money would come back to the district. In the past, they had been allowed to carry it forward, but what they didn't realize, it didn't sit in a separate fund. It just goes back to general operations. So they're planning like there's an extra kind of fund where this money is, but that's actually was not how we were operating. And really, when we're giving you that budget, you should be spending it in that year on those kids. The idea behind this one, if there was anything left over, that we could help support it. And to be honest, it would go to elementary schools. Our secondary schools have larger school budgets, just the nature of the programs that they do. But we've also talked about we need to do an inventory of our equipment. I hear frequently about volleyball stands and nets. I probably hear the most about that. And because they are so expensive and their budgets are not that big, it was a way of helping some of the elementary schools possibly get there. With one of our schools closing, we're going to like look at the equipment and see if we can share that wealth across the district as well. But in some ways they get to hang on to it where it would just roll back to the district. But I'm really trying to get them to spend it before June 30th, probably much to Laura's chagrin because she has to sort through all the receipts. But I really encourage them to spend it. That's why we're giving it to them in that year. And then we'll just have to look at some of the larger purchases, like as a board, we may need to look like maybe we need a budget line for replacing some of this equipment because with inflation, it's increased to the level that they can't afford it. Like there's not enough that we're getting in our school budgets that they can, purchase that within 1 year. The board has been very supportive of numeracy and literacy resources. That all used to come out of school budgets as well. So part of the reason they may have a little bit more money this year is we picked up the tab for quite a bit of it at the district level this year, which I think was a great decision by the board. Our schools need it. And it took some pressure off their individual budgets. And then we don't end up with haves and have-nots because that's our bigger concern.
Dave and then Justin. Okay, Justin.
Nope, I think that Mark and Courtney answered what I was going to say better than I could have. So
I need a motion then to do the restricted funds transfer. Moved by trustee Chenoweth, seconded by trustee Rayner. Anyone opposed? That is carried. We have no policies for first reading, no policies for second reading. Do you have policy 1.31, the role of the superintendent, policy 1.32, role of the secretary treasurer? Do we have anything come back on these from the field?
We did. Our chair of our IEC went through these for us and he sent back suggestions so that the documents were more aligned between the superintendent and the secretary treasurer. The language was just a little bit different. I actually thought they were really great edits that he suggested. I think it makes it clear what the superintendent does, what the board does, what the secretary treasurer does. And I actually sent the edits back to him to see if I captured what he wanted. He was happy with it. Really appreciated that he took the time to do it. But my recommendation would be, if you're satisfied with it after you read it in the package, if we could get a motion for the third reading for both of these policies.
People are happy with the edits as you saw them in the documents.
Yep.
Mover.
Move that we
Trustee Rayner.
1.31 and 1.32.
Okay, and trustee Kent Laidlaw, seconder. Any further discussion on them? Anyone opposed? Carried. There's no policies to appeal. For information there, you have the policy on the annual review of available childcare space in elementary schools and the piece on signing authorities. Signing authorities, you will have seen increase in the spending authority limits, which having to approve everything over $5,000, I'm ecstatic that this level has been moved. Although I enjoy emails from Laura on a daily basis, you know.
And Ronnie.
And Ronnie, yeah. So it's good to see that, and we have the checks and balances in place, so. And with that, we will move to our student trustee reports.
Hi, Shani, nice to see you. I wanted to say it was really nice to see you helping out at Indigenous Grad too. It was nice to touch base. And I also wanted to acknowledge, since I have the floor right now, Sophia and Matthew, who are Princeton trustees. I've talked to both of them privately, but I haven't acknowledged their contributions publicly, and I missed that at the last board meeting, so I want to take an opportunity to really thank them for their contributions. They're graduating this year and they're off to bigger and better things, so I wish them nothing but success, and they both know that, and I really appreciate the work that they did for us in the last couple of years, so thank you for that. Shaggy, so nice to see you. Your partner has sent his regrets because he had to work today. So I'm going to let him know too, because he's graduating this year, so he won't be with us next year. So it's really nice to have had Jacob support us this year, but you're gonna be here next year. Is that right, Jen? Big year next year? Big year next year for graduation?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah, yeah. It's already started, has it? Yeah, that's what I thought. We had chatted about that. So I just wanted to touch base. You've been here for the whole thing. You know that we've been refreshing our strategic plan. And one of the things that came out very clearly from our working committee and from listening to Jane talk tonight was the importance of student voice and the importance of the foundation of wellness and well-being for all our students so that learning can take place. Our question to you is that I know you're aware of it, but what, from your perspective, what is one specific change schools could make that would most improve students' sense of belonging and connection? And what would that look like in practice day to day? You're up. Student voice, so important. So we are all taking notes.
So this one was actually really hard because I just couldn't get into the perspective really. But there's only one thing really is that teachers should connect more with students that don't feel like they have a lot of connections in school, because what could they say about graduating? They're like, oh yeah, I liked my work that one day. So instead of not having friends to mention, they could mention their teachers, because when you have a lot of connections, sometimes you forget how much your teachers contribute to your like graduation and stuff. But then for the ones that are quiet, they recognize it a lot, and it'd be better if they could recognize it more because of the teachers actually interacting with them.
Very nice perspective, considering you couldn't get into it. You did a nice job answering that question. I appreciate that. Does anyone have any questions for Shannon?
It's just so important, connection, right? We're just looking to make connections with people and being seen and heard. And like you said, getting to graduation, to recognize it takes a whole school to get us there. And some of those teachers want to take time to connect. Thank you.
So she pointed out that she is in the book too.
Yeah.
Safe brush, right? What are you most looking forward to next?
Next year, I better be going on more field trips. Yeah, and cause I've been thinking about it, cause I am in classes with grads. So then even without me wanting to, I've been having to think about it. And so hopefully me thinking about it a lot will make it a smooth ride next year. Cause I put all my academic classes really early, like to get it over and done with, because like I want my last year to be fun. And I could graduate early, but why would I just have six more months without my friends?
Oh, and all these field trips you're gonna go on.
It's awesome.
Thank you, Shannon.
There's wisdom in those words. Back reports. I will start with start this time to change. So we'll start with MSS. The big one was the third annual SD58 Rocks Heavy Equipment experience for the students, where they spent 2 days operating equipment. And certainly looking to see that continue. That's support from, I think, from active MSS as well. There was also Jill of All Trades event at Okanagan College that the students went over to. And then science students attended a forensic science learning experience at Thompson Rivers University. And you would have seen in the superintendent's report, the physics students went to Vancouver to the PNE to Playland, and also went to the Triumph accelerator facility. In Playland, they're actually wearing devices on them so they could measure acceleration. And so Playland set something up for physics students where on all the rides, they can figure out the physics of why you don't fall up and how fast you're actually going. So neat to see that. Mrs. DeViser, her clients' classes were participating in their local water testing activities that connected to the classroom. And you would have seen in Merritt a woodworking project of a shed that was being auctioned off by Mr. McGibbon's class to put more dollars into the carpentry program. You would have seen the golf team and ultimate frisbee both in the provincial championships, and then the electric go-kart was in Golden this year and got third place finish, which was good to see. Drama class, we already talked about truth and reconciliation. Also, I wanted to Ms. Piquette. She was recognized provincially by the Junior Achievement of BC as one of 7 champion teachers in British Columbia for her outstanding working career education. So I think it's important to take a look at that as well. And as you know, we have a lot of year-end activities happening, and a grad on the 18th and I-Days on the 23rd and 24th. Is it 23rd and 24th? No, 24th and 25th are the I-Days for.
Yeah, I think it's 24th, 25th.
Yeah. And with that, I'm go to my.
Me, you go to me.
I go to my vice chair.
We met Vermilion Forks Elementary, May 14th, and that was our final meeting of the year. They moved again in September, I believe the 17th. Lots of build up year-end stuff. So they are going, and they went to Sunnybray, the grade 7s for their graduation trip, and that involved PSS students to come and sort of lead, as well as some chaperone, some parents, and some great teachers. We talked a little bit about it in our superintendent's report. I had a neighbor friend, their granddaughter went on the trip, and they said it was by far one of the best trips that their daughter or granddaughter has done ever. So that was really really cool to hear about. And the whole school participated. We had done a lead up into something that was called the Amazing Literacy Race, which was May 28th. So that's 140 students in multi-grade teams of 12, 14. Yeah, it's 10 teams of 14. Moving through the town of Princeton and moving sort of through these literacy activities. So we got to host them at the Skills Center. And it was really cool to watch like a grade 4 student and a grade 7 student, and then try to figure out, we hosted something called Definition Derby, where the words were spread apart, or sorry, the two syllable or 3 syllable words were spread apart, and they had to put them all together as a team. And so it was pretty cool. But they went all through community to do these cool activities. So really cool to see our kids in community. I understand track and field and the Vermilion Forks Thunderbirds did very, very well. So shout out to the Thunderbirds. The band concert is tomorrow night at PSS. So that's 6:30, the doors open, 7 o'clock. I don't know, is it horns? The horns will sound. So that's exciting. There was a parent that was invited to give sort of their idea, their inspiration, and they thought about fundraising, sort of the likes of what JA did a number of years ago to fundraise for a new playground for VFE. So the parent is pumped. The parent's also a teacher, Allison, and she was just like, my kids are gonna go to this school one day and I want to help raise money and make it happen. So the whole pack joined around this awesome teacher and parent. And they said, how can we help? So they've got fundraisers set up and there was so much energy and so much love in the room. It was like super cool. Grads visited VFE. So your graduating students, I think you guys in Merit have been doing this for a long time, but our graduating students came in their caps and gowns down to VFE to sort of show them the way and visit with them. So that was very, very cool. You spoke about equipment, like volleyball equipment and soccer equipment. That's literally on Pete's principal report. You know, if Pat can support with some of these items, that would be great. So it was really good feedback to hear that maybe there might be a little bit of extra money. So yeah, I mean, all in all, beautifully well supported parent group and awesome like PVG. I think he signs off PVG, Pete Benji. What an awesome leader and principal. He was running faster than the kids at the Amazing Literacy Race. I was like, you're so cool, bud. So yeah, so that's my report. Over now.
All right. There's a lot of crossover between our reports because the grads, as you said, went to VFE to show off what it looks like to be a grad. But we also had at PSS all of the grade 7s come and got a little tour, and I believe there were cookies involved. So that was a really fun activity. The really interesting part for me personally is that my daughter got to lead my son around. So this is the one and only year next year that they will be in the same school ever. So they're weirdly excited. So again, as Leah mentioned, there is a band concert tomorrow night, which also includes the PSS students, as well as the community band, I believe. June 12th is their paint run. June 18th, they have their grad dinner and prom, followed by grad and the grand march and dry grad on June 20th. So it's a really super busy week next week for all of the grads. And PAC was very excited because they were able to secure Frisbee Rob for September 28th. There's been a lot of competition between the schools in Princeton to get Frisbee Rob, and we got PSS. So very excited. And then the other thing I want to do is just give some recognition and love to Katrina and Dawn, who have been on PAC for quite a while. As the treasurer, and Dawn's been a number of different roles. She's currently the vice president, I believe. They are stepping down from PAC because their kids are graduating. No, Dawn's not graduating. One of them is graduating and the other one is preparing for her daughter to graduate. So it's, yeah, so just a big shout out to them because they've done a lot of good work for a number of years and we really appreciate it. That's it.
Nicola Camford's PAC meeting was last week and it was a good meeting. There was no agenda. It was at the Empty Keg. So it was more of a social get together minus a Bert. So Bert wasn't there. But yeah, just kind of wrap up the year and stuff and kind of celebrate some of the accomplishments. You know, still a hot topic out at Nicola Camford is busing, and I know that PAC has pushed lots of money out for busing to get the students out to the wildlife park and things like that. So I know that they are looking for other opportunities around transportation. So I can see that being a hot topic, and as we know from this young lady that field trips are where it's at, right? Go ahead, John.
Collar Bill's PAC was last week. Gordon, you attended.
Yeah, so one of the things they're working through is they have quite a few dollars that they have saved up over the years. And so what are some of the things that Central might need that they could bring there? What are other things they could spend down for the last days? One of the interesting things for their fun day was one of the members of their PAC is also a RCMP constable. So he said, well, do you want to paint a cruiser?
Oh, wow.
And so they're going to you get the Crayola washable paints and the kids will be there. I think there's 3 cruises right now that have exceeded 300,000 K. So they're gonna bring down a car, as I understand it, so the kids can paint that. And there's also been the events between, I've been at a couple of them between Collettville and Central, and good seeing those kids coming together and the parents as well. And the other one, a couple of people kept pointing to was, you know what, at Smith Pioneer Park, there's that zip line. There's this fence line at Central, you know. You may or may not hear of that, Carol, but they keep pointing at that going, you know. If they've got one out there, I don't think it's the kids out there are toughers.
But they are.
And then the planning for the trip to Quebec, and it was neat. The kids presented in both French and English to the pack for the support. So that was good to see as well.
Know that they, last week would have been their last pack as a group. And they're looking forward to see what does that look like with Central. I guess that'll happen in September.
Yeah, and I was encouraging them to look at being on this Central pack, because I think there's a lot of strength they can bring there, because I know that the Central pack, I think it was only April when they finally got a president, I think this year, so.
Yeah, within this year, so.
I think there's some good support there.
They're already like sharing their minutes with the Central Pack, just so they can start mingling together. And I know some of the funds they want to spend at Central are like some kind of Gaga pit or something like that.
What's it?
A Gaga pit.
I heard a rumor that there's a carpentry class
Yes.
up on the hill that might be able to build that for
Yes,
us.
I'll talk to Daryl about that, but the carpentry program already said they build anything you want, so. And they need foundation work, framing, stuff like that, storage sheds, so. Sky's last pack is tomorrow, so don't have a report for you, but they're busy in year end, supporting students from afar, as they always do. And in the report, I'm really glad to see a bunch of stuff from Sky's of things they did remotely, so thank you.
Central chose not to meet in June, so the last meeting they had was before I already reported on it. But like we said, they're looking forward to an influx of parents come next September, and hopefully a full board and a engaged pack going forward. So they're looking forward to that. Diamondville, they talked about year-end activities, including their track meet, and I think they rotate through the schools on district track meet who gets to host the concession. I think it was Diamondville this year. Was it not? Colville, never mind. Oh, yeah, that's right. We discussed it and they were like, oh, we don't have to do this year. We did it last year. They talked about their talent show that went on in the last month or so, and how the kids were excited about that. I think the rehearsals were just as much fun as the actual event, the kids. And the last theme that they kind of touched on and talked about was some more positive messaging and advertising around their school, and how they want it to be seen in the public's eyes. So they're trying to come up with some strategies for kind of some positive messaging and advertising and things they can do to show everyone what a wonderful school they've got over Downville.
John Allison, they're in lots of events going on at the year end here. Great, they're in a great position going into next year. They're packed, they've put so much money. But I thought it would be a really relaxed last meeting, but they had it at the Copper Pit. And they still talked about a library position, and there being no prep time and time to organize the library, that kind of stuff. They're also talked about designation roles of EAs and class sizes and all this. And I'm like, holy cow, you guys, it's the end of the year. And so they're just worried about going into next year if there's going to be enough EAs. And I said, well, that's very fluid. It changes. They're working, Principal Larson is working on the timetable change with snack time and instructional time. Like there's 289 minutes out of the day out of 304 that they have to have instructional time, and so there's snack time, and whether that includes for little kids is that instructional time, because it all comes down to teacher prep and all. Anyway, it was great conversation. And also they're having their sports day plus Indigenous games. Yeah, that's cool. Nice. That's it.
And just under other reports, I did attend online. It's over 2 days, a school attended, it was called School Attendance Challenges. Several of our bands attended that as well. Superintendent attended. So who's in on some of these, okay, it's a nationwide issue, or in some cases, it's an international issue, and a lot of it stemming from COVID forward. They did all the sessions back to back, which was, I learned, I said, you don't put 6 hours back to back of people talking to you through Teams for 2 days. With no lunch break or, so I thought like, we wouldn't do this to kids. But that's a whole other story. The other one I attended was the Harris Educational Law Conference. The last few years, that's always good for us to see what's coming up and what's coming up in different districts. And I've shared that with our parent groups too, because some of it naturally flows out to there on court cases. Not surprising, one of the court cases they were looking at was the Newfelt one, where it wasn't the school board that was found liable, trustee individually, which was the largest award the Human Rights Tribunal has ever given, which was $675,000. When you break it down, they actually went light because the average case is normally 20,000, and they allocated between 6 and 10,000. So if you just take the $10,000 divided by 675, that's how many educator, call them complaints, but concerns that were brought up before. So you think of that number of human rights cases that came up on behalf of the Chilliwack Teachers Union that they ruled on. So that was pretty instructive because they actually walked us through that case. So yeah, those are the last two things I had.
Just a report, Chair, the Thompson Okanagan Branch Executive, just in preparation for what looks like to be new boards throughout the Okanagan and Similkameen. How can we support our new trustees? And so we've done some professional development and planning. And so to expect, our board can expect an invitation, a virtual invitation to a professional development session virtually before they go to academy, which may be a nice help. 4 years ago for folks, but that is also going to be in addition to the mentorship program that we're going to launch. And should I still be in the position to support branch of it, that will be a February branch meeting. And there's a hope to do for new trustees and new boards, essentially some pretty deep learning. So we plan on doing a gallery. So BCPC, Rob, and they'll have some people speaking on all of the elements of what it takes to be an even better board and or even better trustee and or even better branch. So the branch is working pretty hard on behalf of our local districts to make sure new trustees feel supported. Yeah, and boards.
I'm going to turn it over to Trustee Chenoweth just for a second, because he's going to be running 2 sessions, one in Meredith and one in Princeton, for people who are looking at becoming trustees. And we specifically picked John because he's indicated he's not running again. And so we wanted to make sure people didn't feel there was a conflict, or if trustees were there, they might feel uneasy. So John, if you wanted to spot briefly on that.
Yeah, so I talked to Courtney quite a while ago about, I'm not running again. It might be a good idea if we do some kind of, so you want to be a trustee night. And just to go over, what does it mean? Well, what are your responsibilities? And Mark and Courtney shared a PowerPoint from the island that has a whole bunch of really good information. And I believe Cassie's going to be playing with that to make it relevant to us here. And I probably won't follow a script, but we'll likely have some really good dialogues about, what does it mean to be a trustee, and what are your roles and responsibilities? So And I've had a few people approach me, curious about it. And so I'm hoping we get at least 5 people per community. That doesn't mean if they don't come, they won't be going after trusteeship, but I'm just willing to share with anyone who wants to inquire, so. It has been a great honor, working with all of you, and I'll probably say some goodbyes in September. But it has been a great honor to serve Nicholas Milkameen for 8 years, so. Real big highlight of my professional career, so. Okay.
Yeah, it's June 22nd.
22nd, 23rd.
Thanks for giving your time and lending that language and information.
I don't think we have anything in correspondence. And do we have anyone online for public question period? We don't, so then I would take a motion to adjourn the 25-26 year.
So moved.
I'll second it. Or you second it.
He was opposed, he wanted to stay a bit longer. We are adjourned, folks, thank you.
Still, yeah.